Mistakes aren't failures, they're information. Continuing from part 1. So how do you actually put this into practice? Because it's one thing to intellectually understand that mistakes are data. It's another thing to actually respond that way in the middle of competition when you've just messed up and you can feel everyone's eyes on you. Here's what I've seen work. When you make a mistake, take a breath. Literally, one deep breath. This interrupts the emotional spiral before it starts and brings you back to the present moment. Then, instead of dwelling on it, just make a quick mental note, something to work on. That's it. You're not analyzing it deeply in the middle of competition. You're just acknowledging that's information I'll look at later and then moving on. Then comes the most important part, next play mentality. The mistake is done. You can't change it. What you can control is what you do right now. So you immediately shift your focus forward. What's my next job? What's the next opportunity? This keeps you present and engaged instead of stuck in the past. After the game or practice, that's when you actually process what happened. What was I trying to do? What actually happened? Why did it go wrong? What do I need to adjust? This is when the mistake becomes useful data. And then you make a plan based on that data. Maybe it's something to work on in practice. Maybe it's something to talk with your coach about. Maybe it's just a mental note to approach differently next time. You're turning the information into action. Now, let's be honest, some mistakes matter more than others. Missing a shot in practice feels different from missing a game winner. Making an error in the first quarter feels different from making one in the final seconds of a close game. High-stakes mistakes hurt more. That's natural. That's human. But even those mistakes are still data. Maybe more emotionally painful data, but data nonetheless. I worked with a soccer player who missed a penalty kick that would have won a championship game. Devastating, right? For weeks, he couldn't let it go. He kept replaying it, beating himself up, feeling like he'd failed everyone. But eventually, with support, he started processing it differently. What did that mistake teach him? That he needed to work on penalty kicks under pressure. That he needed mental preparation routines for high-stakes moments. That he needed to separate his identity from single outcomes. He used that painful mistake as data. And the next season, when he stepped up for another crucial penalty, he made it. Not because the first miss didn't hurt, but because he'd learned from it instead of being destroyed by it. Think back to what we talked about with elite athletes not starting elite. They become elite through years of development. And part of that development is learning to handle mistakes better than everyone else. They don't waste energy on shame or fear. They don't let mistakes shake their confidence. They don't play scared trying to avoid errors. They make mistakes, learn from them quickly, and move forward. That's the separation point. Two athletes with equal talent, one treats mistakes as disasters, one treats them as data. The second athlete will develop faster, perform better under pressure, and sustain their career longer. Which one do you want to be? Now, here's where your support system matters. It's hard to maintain a healthy relationship with mistakes if everyone around you is treating them as catastrophes. If your coach is screaming at you for every error. If your parents are visibly disappointed when you mess up. If your teammates are critical and negative. That environment makes it really difficult to see mistakes as learning opportunities. Remember what we talked about in the last video about parent roles. This is part of it. You need the people around you to understand that mistakes are part of development, not signs of failure. And think about what's coming next. We're going to talk about building trust with coaches and teammates. Part of that trust comes from knowing you can make mistakes without being judged or rejected. That's what creates the psychological safety where real learning happens. So this week, practice this approach. When you make mistakes, and you will, try responding with curiosity instead of judgment. Notice what you learn. See if you can extract the data without the emotional drama. And pay attention to whether the environment around you supports this mindset or undermines it. Because that environment matters. Here's what I want you to remember. Every elite athlete you admire has made thousands and thousands of mistakes. Not despite becoming elite, but as part of becoming elite. Mistakes are the price of admission for growth.
The athletes who make it aren't the ones who avoid mistakes. They're the ones who make mistakes, extract the lessons, and keep moving forward. You're going to make mistakes. Lots of them. That's not a problem. That's the process. The question is, will you let those mistakes teach you, or will you let them paralyze you? Your choice. Choose wisely. Train the mind, trust the process, win from within.